Hey there, Aaron Shank with Mountain Septic. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about aeration tanks or aeration chambers within septic tanks and their aeration pump component, how they work, and what are they there for. So on a septic tank that has an aeration chamber, you're going to typically have three chambers. You're going to have your settlement chamber. That's where your domestic effluent is going to come in from the house, enter the settlement chamber. That's where most of your initial settling is going to happen. You're going to have your sludge zone on the bottom where most of your solids settle out. You're going to have a scum layer that forms on the top that's going to be your fats, oils, and grease. The liquid is then going to flow into the aeration chamber where you have an aerator pump that has a rod that comes down in there. It rotates, pumping oxygen into that chamber. So you have the naturally occurring bacteria that's in the water. It's going to feed on the waste and then breathe the oxygen, and then with the natural byproduct of carbon dioxide. And what that creates is cleaner water that then enters into your clarification chamber, where you may have a little more settling going on. If there's any more particulates that were still floating in the water before it leaves your tank and enters your soil treatment area to complete the filtration process before it re-enters the groundwater. So what does an aeration pump look like? This is a pretty standard one. There's a couple different styles, but this is what's pretty common. This sets down into the access port of your aeration chamber. You have the rod there on the bottom that rotates, pumping the oxygen into that chamber for that bacteria to breathe. A couple things to note in regards to these aeration pumps. They typically only have a lifespan of 2 to 5 years, as you can imagine. It's a pretty caustic environment in there. So what's very common for us to find when we go to inspect or pump a tank is that pump is non-existent. At some point in the past, it stopped working. The homeowner, no fault of their own, just didn't have the education or understand that needed to be replaced or what its function was in regards to the tank. And then they just pull it out. And now, without that in there, you end up with 2 settlement chambers. And it just kind of defeats the efficiency and overall purpose of having that in there. So the moral of the story in regards to the aeration pump is make sure that it's operating and functioning, because that's going to increase the efficiency of that bacteria. Now the bacteria isn't going to eat all of the waste. That's why you have these settling zones, these 2 other tanks to allow a lot of that to settle. It just helps clean up that water, because we want to get that as clean as we can before it enters your soil treatment area. And as we like to say here at Mountain Septic, we know that clean water starts at home. And this is a good way to get that clean water at home. If you have any other questions in regards to aeration pumps, septic tanks, or any septic matters, feel free to give us a call, 970-903-2439, or look us up online at mountainseptic.com.